And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore, where we never sit out with your hosts, MD and CD. Today, it's the last day we're going to talk about it. But the NFL drafts rounds 2 through 7 happened since we last recapped the first round, and we need to talk about it just a little bit. All right, we're going to break down some numbers by conference. All right, we're going to make sure that we talk about some of our sleepers that, we had before the draft, spots that they landed, and any other guys that maybe slipped, other significantly awesome spots where guys landed. And then that's going to be it. And then we're not going to talk about the NFL draft until, you know, probably March of next year. So 2025. We're just going to dump it. We're just going to leave it. And it's going to be over. CD, how are we feeling today?
Very good. Excited. Long weekend. Obviously, love watching the draft, especially days 2 and 3. Get to see these guys, maybe lesser known, but let us diehard college football fans know these guys and appreciate what they did for us. Happy to see them succeed and get drafted in the NFL. Obviously, fulfilling lifelong goal. Yeah, excited to talk about this stuff. A lot to get into. Lot to get into.
Yeah, and it makes it so much easier. Like, believe it or not, Christopher, it makes it easier to talk about these guys when we've actually watched college football. Because I'm threading for tech sacks over the weekend in rounds, 2 and 3. Now, of course, you get into late day 3, and there's some guys that maybe I don't have a ton of film on, right? Or just haven't seen, haven't heard of, like, all right, who is this guy, right? And that's gonna happen, all right. But as I'm threading, rounds 1 through 3, it's just like every guy coming off the board, like it's easy to talk about. There are other people, other interns that were trying to thread as well, and they didn't have anything to say about these guys, because they don't consume college football on the level that we do. It just made it so much easier. Makes it so much easier to talk about. So today we're going to talk about some of those guys. But yeah, let's first get into like some stats broken down by
Wait, real quick.
conference.
Sorry to interrupt you. Real quick, you guys do not forget to subscribe and like
Oh,
the video. Cannot believe we forgot about that. Our channel has been growing tremendously. We thank you guys for interacting with us in the comment sections and liking our videos, subscribing. You guys are awesome. We're really happy to see our channel growing right now. But just wanted to throw that in there. Don't forget to do that if you are not subscribed already.
yeah. If you're listening on Spotify, hey, we love you too. All right, but look, I'll say it. The production value's kind of been increasing over the last couple of weeks. If you want to meander over to our YouTube channel, also too, there sometimes is exclusive content only found on YouTube. For instance, CD and I's only individual mock drafts that came out were only on YouTube. They weren't on Spotify. So look, if you're listening on Spotify, keep listening on Spotify. I'm not going to ask you to listen to YouTube while you're driving to work in the morning, but I think that it may benefit you. You may find value in following us on YouTube and subscribing, right? So thank you so much. I can't believe I forgot to say that. I know I'm pretty good about reminding y'all to like the video and subscribe. So thank you for catching me there, CD. I'll let you kind of break
Good.
down some of these stats by conference if you want to get into that.
Yeah, so we had four conferences with over 40 picks. We want to talk about parity in college football. We saw that throughout the season, and obviously the NFL saw that as well. Obviously, the SEC had head and shoulders more than everybody else, 59, which is crazy, including a couple teams. Um, yeah, that just had a bunch. Obviously, it's more so the depth in the SEC that gives it that number. And they also had 11 in the first round, almost over 33%. A third of the first round was SEC schools, and that's only growing with Oklahoma and Texas moving in. Oklahoma had, I believe, 4 picks and one in the first round. Texas had 11 total picks and two in that first round. But obviously, you look at top picks in the conferences, like it's awesome to see the SEC, the Big Ten, Big 12, ACC having a lot of picks. And by the way, the swan song for the Pac-12, which we talked about all year, back since the summer, that this is a very talented conference, very deep conference. A lot of quarterbacks, a lot of playmakers, uh, and whatnot. You saw that in the NFL draft. 8 going in the first round. Washington had what, 3 early
Yep.
on? Like they obviously that team was loaded, absolutely loaded. They had 10 total picks as well. If you look at the NFL picks by school, I mean, you go off. I mean, you're looking at the top most talented teams, and obviously, like you look at the final AP polls, or a lot of teams like, oh, who is your 7 best teams? And all those 7 teams that were playing for trying to get that last spot that last weekend, if you remember, they're all in there. Michigan, Texas, Alabama, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Georgia, all those teams all had 8 or more draft picks. Very, very uh, obviously telling of how talented they were. But we knew that already as college football fans. But nice to see that the NFL is giving them their flowers as well.
Yeah, something I wanted to point out too. You just mentioned those top five teams: Michigan with 13, Texas with 11, Alabama with 10, Florida State with 10, Washington with 10. What's the common denominator between all of those five teams? Every single one of those teams was a different conference. When have you
Yeah.
ever seen that? Not very often. So I look, this could just be like an outlier year, or maybe maybe there is a transition for a little bit of parity. Obviously you're not going to get not all 134 teams are going to have a chance to win a national championship or make it to the college football playoffs, like ever, right? But the reality is, maybe there are some things that are changing along. Or maybe this is the last remnants of that COVID, where you had super seniors like Michael Penix, showing up and, making the people around him better. It could be remnants of that. I don't know. We're gonna have to see it play out next couple of years to see if like this continues to be a trend. Now, obviously, Texas is in the SEC now. Washington's in the Big Ten. Oregon's in the Big Ten now. So like, yeah, obviously, yeah. So like you're just kind of consolidating talent in that way. So, but the point is, it was interesting to see. I was surprised though. I thought Michigan was gonna have more players drafted. I remember, the numbers looking at it, people were like, hey, they might have 18 drafted, but I mean sticking with 13, it's still pretty dang solid um in of itself. So I mean kudos to that Michigan team. They were very talented developing these kids, getting them to the NFL. So this was a cool year of college football, man. And it's awesome to see these guys move on and hopefully a lot of these guys have success at the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I want to mention, especially with the quarterbacks in that first round, I mean, you got 4 of the 6 of them were transfers too. I think that's a big part of it too, especially at the quarterback position where there's only one spot available for you. You go somewhere else and maybe it's better fit, whatever it is. You saw all these quarterbacks. I mean, other than Caleb Williams, who we obviously know would have been a monster how do you say it? He was a monster his freshman year at Oklahoma, but obviously falls Lincoln Riley. That turned out to be a great a hit rate for him. Jaden Daniels revitalized his career after a very weird ending and split up with Arizona State and Herm Edwards. And then obviously Michael Penix going to Kalen DeBoer. That was awesome. Bo Nix changing his whole play style at Oregon and more pro style, playing on time and all that stuff. And then uh, yeah, obviously just those 4 pretty talented, I think. So we're kind of getting to a new age here with the portal. Eventually we're going to move out, like you said, of the COVID seniors, and so we're going to start getting a little bit more. We'll just see. It'll be very, very different. But obviously excited for all these players that got drafted and the conferences too, because it's nice to go recruit. Be like, hey, look at our guys. Look at them doing this. They played here. The NFL scouts found them, which they'll find anyone, obviously. But nice to see that come to fruition. I want to highlight the G5 schools, right? So none of them had over 10. But I do think that number, I don't know if it'll continue to get better because just the transfer portal in general is getting harder. Where like if you have a guy who and Nick Saban even said it on the broadcast where he was like, yeah, Quinyon Mitchell, who was the top cornerback picked in this draft, who was our top corner, everyone's top corner. Nick Saban and Alabama tried to get him on campus last year to get him into the portal, to get him come down. Obviously, they did fine defensive back wise. I mean, they had top 60 picks, top 50 picks. So yeah, they did pretty fine
Two top
there.
45 picks. Yeah.
Top 45 picks. So first round and Arnold and Kool-Aid McKinstry in the second. So it's just but it's interesting though, because I do think where you're gonna have these guys who break out as sophomores or maybe a red shirt sophomore, and they come out and they're like, well, maybe one more year I'll boost my draft stock and I'll go to a Power Five or Power Four school. But it's good to see the Sun Belt, who we gave a lot of props to throughout the year. They led the G5 with 6 picks,
We'd been
and
saying it. They were the best conference. That was G5 conference. We kept saying it. So, and this,
yeah,
but draft picks aren't everything, but it sort of validates that opinion a little bit.
I think so.
Yeah,
But
I,
the
I love,
Mac, the
dude.
oh, sorry, real
Yeah, the
quick.
MAC.
I mean, yes, they only had 2. That was the least of any conference. Them and the Mountain West.
High picks, though. High
They were
picks.
what 2 top 56, 2 top 60 picks. Like pretty impressive. And obviously Braden Fisk, who was Western Michigan, obviously went earlier at 39 to the Rams. So interesting, very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of interesting. Also, too, like you mentioned transfer quarterbacks. How about transfer edges, man? There's some transfer edges. I mean, Jared Verse, transfer edge. Latu, another transfer
Yep.
edge. Now his circumstances were very unique, but regardless, I very interesting to see how like some positions have a lot more success in terms of improving their standing with the transfer portal. It definitely doesn't feel like every position's like that. There were some running backs, transfers that kind of popped off. Like Ray Davis was a transfer running back. Marshawn Lloyd was a transfer running back. So Bucky Irving was a transfer running back. Isaac Garendo was a transfer running back. There were a lot of guys on this list that were transfer running backs that had a lot of success. So yeah, so certain positions feels like kind of quarterback, edge, running back, to some degree wide receiver.
At
Jamari
the receiver,
Thrash,
in the past, you've seen Jamison Williams transfer and obviously completely revitalize his or change the career arc he was on at Ohio State. Ricky Pearsall in the first round this year.
Keon
Um,
Coleman.
yep.
So Adonai Mitchell. I mean, Jermaine Burton was a transfer too, right? Yeah, Luke McCaffrey was a transfer as well. Yeah, Devontae Walker was a transfer as well. I mean, the list goes on and on, man. The list goes on. Malik Washington, Johnny Wilson. I'm not was Brendan Rice a transfer? No, he was at USC, right? The whole time, for sure. I don't know. Either way, yeah, a lot of offensively plus edge, you get a lot of success, I feel like. So we'll see if other positions can start to see a lot of success. I haven't seen a lot of success at the offensive line position in the transfer portal. Uh there's some stories, there's some guys, but kind of feels like it's pretty rare there. But yeah. Anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about who are some guys that maybe slipped or some guys that you think that are in an absolutely fantastic position. And I'll start right now. Okay. I mocked AD Mitchell to the Colts at like 15 several times, and he fell all the way to 55. That is nuts. And I liked what Chris Ballard said because, it's really easy for people in the media, including us, to bring up something like character issues, having never talked to the kid a single time or having talked to any of their family members a single time. And he just said, yeah, I mean, like, why are we tearing these kids down, when we should be building these kids up, in the greatest days of their lives, And to some degree, that's absolutely true. There are certain situations, like I thought was interesting. Tavondre Sweat going as high as he did after, look, AD Mitchell, I'm with Chris Ballard. Like, what? Just because a guy transfers, just because a guy, I mean, why are we making up stories about, his blood sugar being low and he gets attitude problems? Like, what does that even mean, But the Devondre Sweat thing, though, I will say is a big red flag. You get a DUI like 10 days before the draft. And first of all, how do you get a DUI at 375 pounds, by the way? Like, that's
Well,
pretty
it was
bonkers.
marijuana.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay. Yeah. So I guess it's a little bit different. But
You can talk about.
I was just thinking about that. I was like, oh my gosh, that
He's a
is,
lightweight, man. He's lightweight.
I was
No,
like,
that's
how lightweight is that guy? But I don't know. I thought that was, I don't know. I was shocked to see Tamandre Sweat go as high as he did in the second round.
yeah. And staying in the second round there, Johnny Newton. First of all, how did he get to the second round? And especially at a position of a premium need. Washington, I think they were looking to go. They have a couple picks in that second round, I believe, and I think they were trying to help Jaden Daniels go in that second round, and they thought some of their guys would be there, but with Pearsall and Leggett and Worthy going at the back end of the first round, and then Coleman and McConkey going 1 and 2 in that second round, I think they stood around and they're like, Johnny Newton still on the board. All the other maybe guys that they thought were like really, really highly thought of at the wide receiver position were, and Johnny Newton's still there. And so you got to take him. Obviously pretty exciting there. And then back to back there, Jalen Polk at five. I've seen that get a lot of hate. A lot of people had him in the third round. Was I surprised to see him go there? Yes, but do I see exactly why the Patriots really like him? Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of like what the Patriots did with their draft. First of all, they got what I thought was the second best quarterback at pick number 3, which is pretty good value, if you ask me. And then also, we'll get to it eventually, but later on, um, in that fourth round, Javon Baker, right, another guy to pair with Drake May and kind of revamplizing Jaheim Bell in the seventh, doing good things for a couple O line in those mid round picks. I really like what they did. And they had a lot of needs, a lot of things to address, but I think they kind of stuck on one side of the ball. We'll fix one side of the ball. We'll make sure Drake May does not come into a situation like Bryce Young had last year, where it was a bad team. You had a lot of roster holes, and they kind of just ignored to fill some of them, especially on the offensive side, and it got bad for Young. And I think they want to avoid that with Drake May.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'll talk about another team that I thought did a really good job drafting, mostly like yes, need, but also value. And when you pair that to, like, that means you just had a fantastic draft. The Eagles, getting Quinn Mitchell, we talked about on day one at 22 was nuts. I had Cooper DeJean mocked to them at 22 in the first round of the draft. They go turn around and then they snag him in the second round at 40. All right. And then they made a couple trades and they actually stockpiled some drafts for next year. I like that they got Will Shipley. I know that they got Saquon, but Will Shipley is an insanely athletic, versatile back. So, uh, nothing wrong with having a spare there. And then, I like the Anais Smith pick as well. Just kind of a gadget guy, a guy that you can stick in the slot there, but probably more of a special teamer, if you really want to talk about it. But I just thought the Eagles with those first two draft picks, I thought set them head and heels over everyone else. But then I want to also talk about the Steelers staying in the state of Pennsylvania. You got Troy Fontenot, right? Like you could either play him at left tackle, you can play him at guard, wherever you want to. And then desperately, the Steelers needed a center. And who do you get? You get Zach Frazier, a guy that
Mm,
I personally really liked. I had him mocked in the first round. You get him at 51. Kind of feels like who's your guy from Minnesota last year?
John Michael Schmitz.
Kind of felt like a John Michael Schmidt situation, Now John Michael Schmitz was probably the consensus center number one last year, but I thought Zach Frazier had an argument to be center number one, depending on what you like, what kind of style runner or what kind of style offense you had. So I thought the argument was there to be made. I also like that they got Peyton Wilson late in the third round. A couple other linebackers went ahead of Peyton Wilson, which I was pretty shocked about. We had him in our first round slash second round uh, draft video, and we both said that he was probably a second round guy. Did not think he was going to be a third round guy, uh, and at that a late third round guy. So I think he was like the second or third to last pick in the third round, which is crazy. Roman Wilson was a good pick there. Mason McCormick, I mean, clear addressing the needs at the offensive line position, throwing those darts. I really like what the Steelers did and the Eagles addressing needs and getting value at those positions.
Yeah, with first of all, Roman Wilson, he's got some really nice tape, and also what he did post draft in the Senior Bowl, because he's one of those guys in an offense where maybe he wasn't utilized to his best abilities, and that's fine. He was a willing blocker, willing to do what he wanted, what they needed from him. But I do think he comes in and helps them right away because there was a need at wide receiver. You trade away Deontay Johnson, you have George Pickens there, Pat Fryermuth, but I mean, Van Jefferson's, I don't know if he's the guy. Denzel Mims obviously has been very underwhelming. But yeah, going back to your Pat Peyton Wilson pick, it's awesome. That's where you take a guy like that in that second, third round. If you can get him late in the third round, awesome, awesome value. And then also, that's where you take him instead of taking him like Devin Bush, what they're talking about like 10 or whatever a couple years ago. That Peyton Wilson is this is where you take him. And obviously you bet on the upsides. You have some guys you like that can start. Cole Holcomb, Landon Roberts, you signed Patrick Queen that can be serviceable guys for you until Peyton Wilson's really ready to get going. If you want to figure out what you want to actually do with him, whether you beef him up or maybe slim down, move him to nickel or whatever it may be. But regardless, love the thought process there. Mason McCormick, a guy a lot of people loved during the draft process, kind of getting his flowers late in the draft process, but obviously pretty good value. And they needed a line, and you take three stabs at them on guys that we feel pretty darn good about. Nice work.
Yeah, and then one more team that I want to highlight. I like the Buffalo Bills draft. Now, I don't like I don't love every single player that they took in this draft, but they had a lot of picks, okay? And they used them. I thought they took some pretty good darts at the dartboard, right? For starters, I thought it was weird that they traded out of the first round to get Keon Coleman. I don't know why they wouldn't rather have a fifth-year option on a guy, but I guess they did get some good value out of that. Uh, Getting a draft pick, another shot at getting a guy, Cole Bishop in the second round. I thought was awesome. That was a guy that I didn't expect to go that high, but I think is definitely very, very good football player. Physical, large, good football player. Good football player. And then Dwayne Carter with Duke, I thought was also a pretty decent job getting someone on the defensive line who might have some value. Guy's just got a high motor. I like him a lot. Cedric Van Pran going to the fifth round, I thought was pretty criminal. I think he was one of the better centers in this class. Going to the fifth round was pretty nuts. Javon Solomon from Troy, a great edge guy, who had a lot of production in the Sun Belt. We'll see if it translates to the NFL. So I thought they had some good picks here, man. I thought they had some good picks, the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I like the process. Now, it was interesting to trade with a rival in the Chiefs. I do also think that part of the realism that Billy Bean or Brendan Bean had with the Bills is like, I don't think it's going to happen this year. I mean, you trade away Diggs, you lose a lot of these guys throughout free agency, and like it's a different roster coming in there. And there were holes, there were massive holes. And so even if they tried to stitch together some kind of, real Super Bowl contender, I don't think it would happen. I think it would fall short. This way, you get the guy you wanted, you trade down, you have all day to think about it. A couple times you get some extra picks there, and you fill out your roster with really good football players. The Van Pran one, such a Van Pran, I love that. I was waiting for the Bears to come up and trade for him, and they ended up trading for someone else, which we'll talk about in a second here. But yeah, that's awesome. And it's a position of need for them. I don't know why the centers fell. Like no one in the first round, right? You had Zach Frazier fall in. Like it was very wild.
Even
Um,
Jack Powers Johnson wasn't into the 40s.
that's what I'm saying. So very, very interesting there, kind of telling. But I am a guy that values center. I am a guy that if you can snap the football, call the alignments, and still be a good blocker, a productive move blocker in the running game and passing game, to me that's super valuable. I don't think there are a lot of people that can do that. And I think if you have a bad one, it could really diminish your offense and everything you want to do. One team I want to highlight, and I hate to do it, but I got to, it's the Chicago Bears, right? And I know you guys know we're Bears fans here, but I mean, Williams, obviously, one is chalk, but I think that's pretty darn impressive with the whole process and what went behind that and trading down last year from Bryce Young, guy who really struggled in year one. Now, obviously, did you know it was going to turn into Caleb Williams? Probably not, but still, I mean, you got to give Poles a ton of credit. Trading down from 1 to 9, still getting your guy a 10, trading back again, um, and getting Darnell Wright a right tackle for you. You get Caleb Williams, allows you to pick Roma Dunze at number 9. And then obviously even later in the draft, you didn't have a ton of picks because you were using them for other things. Kieran Namagaji, right? A guy from Yale. Very, very interesting backstory. Super exciting to see what he can do. Hometown kid. You love that. A guy you can really bet on from the Ivy League. And then Torrey Taylor. How about that? Obviously, college ball fans know exactly who he is. And I don't know if the fourth round's too early. I don't know everything to know about punters. I'm not going to say I know, oh, his form is fantastic or his whatever, but I
Yeah.
know what he did offensively for or
Yeah.
defensively for them,
And
make an impact
offensively.
on the team. Yeah, he was
He was
like
offense and defense for them.
you can't play that kind of style that they play, Kirk Ferentz, with an anemic offense, absolutely anemic offense, and not have an elite punter. And the pressure was on him every time he went out there. It's like you have to pin him back. You have to flip the field because your offense is not getting first downs. Deacon Hill is not doing it, and he did it. It was awesome. But and then a fifth round, I want to hear your thought. Austin Booker. I mean, you give up a fourth round next year, a guy that we feel like third round pick, second round pick as early. I saw him going, and he fell to the fifth round at a position of need, a position of value in the NFL, who's raw and young, but still has some pretty good tools to work with right away. I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
we were thinking about doing a day three sleepers part two, and we just kind of ran out of time. And you had written down Austin Booker on there. So
Yeah. Well, the
that
reason I had him in the first one, I was gonna do it in the first one, and I was like, oh, he's not gonna go day three. I mean, I was like, I was getting into him, and I was like, he's not gonna go day three, or there's a real chance he doesn't go day three, and he fell to day three, and boom.
far
I've
into
been, I,
day three, like far in day three.
I've been
So
high on him since he's back in Minnesota, and he came out as a freshman, and he didn't play much because he had a lot of stuff to fill out frame wise and to work on, but he was just uber impressive in practice for Minnesota, and they were a guy that were really bummed when he did leave. Um, but obviously, he did special things for Kansas: 8 sacks, 12 TFLs in 2023 in the Big Ten or in the Big 12. Pretty darn impressive.
It's not very polished, but he just is so long and unbelievable motor, and he's gifted, got some bend a little bit. But like I don't know, I think he could develop into something really good. He was a good pick. But speaking of sleepers, let's kind of talk about, we can go back to some other guys, but let's talk about some of the sleepers that we had on our day 3 sleepers list. We'll start with Dylan Lobby, running back from New Hampshire. He was the last running back taken in this draft in the 6th round to the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a guy that you put on our list for day 3 sleepers. For How about you recap a little bit why you like him so much for the people that didn't watch that video and why you think he might be a good fit here?
I mean, he is fantastic. I mean, you look at what he did in the receiving game and even in the outside zone game for New Hampshire. Yes, was he playing against elite high level competition? No, not necessarily, but it showed, it popped. And it also, when he did play high level competition at the Senior Bowl, again, he popped again. I still think it was criminal. Criminal. He fell to the 6th round, and the Raiders, a team that's very equipped to running the ball and do not have a ton of you know, weapons, I guess to
Pass
say, or
throwers.
really pass throws. Like I do think like Lauby and Brock Bowers and what they did offensive line wise, like that's a really nice pieces to your offense. When you obviously have Devontae Adams, Michael Mayer, two very good players. But I think Lauby complements them very well, especially after losing Josh Jacobs. I like the running back Zamir White they got there as well. But he's Lauby, we talked about like he's not going to be 25 carries a game guy, but he's gonna whoever has him is going to be a really nice chess piece to have, and he's going to do some special things for you. And obviously, special teams value I do think is there as well. 6th round is awesome to the Raiders.
I agree 100%. He's a good football player, guys. Sometimes you just gotta draft good football players, and a lot of times they work out. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. But he does a lot of things well. He does a lot of things well. Let's get into let's talk about Jalen Ford. Threw that name on there. I'm sure a couple people were surprised to see that name on there when we were talking about this. Look, Mario Davis is getting old. All right, he's getting up there. He's gonna come in and slide right behind the veteran. Okay. And yeah, I mean, Mario Davis is 35 years old, guys. How many more seasons does this guy have left in the tank? You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Who knows? And Jalen Ford, honestly, like, is a little bit more athletic. They're very similar in size, though. I think they're both like around 6'2", 240 pounds. So, look, I think it's a great fit, man. I think it's a great fit. We'll see if he'll actually see the field this year. My guess would be not a lot, not a ton. They also just signed Willie Gay, but I think this is a good spot for Jalen Ford. I think he needs to develop a little bit, and we'll see. We'll see where he ends up. I mean, some other guys I thought that Saints had a good draft too. I mean, Christian Boyd, Jalen Ford, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Fuanga. I mean, pretty solid, pretty solid. But yeah,
Yeah,
I really like this fit, man. I really like this fit. He was not ready to play probably day one, but definitely a guy to take a shot on in the late round.
they've had good success, defensively, linebacker position there with New Orleans. Yeah, I think Ford's a great spot. Good dart throw for them to throw. We talked about all the reasons why we liked him, and it makes a ton of sense for uh for them to kick on. And yeah, I mean, he's also got 2 years of a lot of productions in the in the Big 12, playing against good athletes, good offenses. Yeah, why not? I mean, I thought the 5th round and the 5th round, 6th round, pretty good value for him there, especially. He's also big enough to play linebacker. Like he's got the arms, the hands, everything you want um to grow into. Like, yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk about this is a guy that I know you like a ton. Malik Washington. guy that we slandered on the beginning of the season before this happened, that Virginia saying that he wasn't going to be a crazy impact player for them. Wow, that was an absolutely horrendous take by myself. He plays fantastic. He does everything well. Feels like he blocks, he runs great routes. He can play in the slot, he can play on the outside. Feels like he'll probably play slot receiver for the Dolphins if I had to guess. But I think with those three guys there, I think they might just move everyone around, like and just get really, really, really creative here. So how do you like the fit here, Malik Washington to the Dolphins?
I love it. They got a pair of Washingtons in Taj Washington in the seventh round, but Malik Washington, yeah, we talked about him. All the reasons why we loved him in that video. Super, super explosive, good versatility for you. He can do. He's not just a slot receiver either. I think that's a little bit of misnomer just because of his size and whatnot, but I think he can do a lot of things for you. And yeah, I think with McDaniels and what they can do offensively and scheming things up and just creating mismatches all over the field with the speed that they already do have with Waddle and Hill. Yeah, Malik Washington is awesome. And also Tyreek Hill's not gonna be there forever, too. Like you're gonna have to prepare for life after Tyreek Hill. Malik Washington. Not to say that he is Tyreek Hill at all, but I do think like again, he's another playmaker for you. Run after catch, he's really, really good at. So part of the reasons what makes Tyreek Hill and Waddle so good, Malik Washington does that as well. Gives you some more, dynamic pieces for you offensively. Now their O line does get a lot of issues, obviously, with the Dolphins, but Malik Washington, I think sixth round, eighth pick, a guy that led college football and or the ACC in receiving, like what that's awesome. Awesome value there.
Yeah, yeah. I liked it a lot. I liked it a lot. Day three sleeper for us. I'll get into a guy that I had on there. Uh, Tyler Owens, the only guy on our sleepers list that did not get drafted. And actually, we had mentioned, I believe, if you go back and watch the video, that this was probably like he might not get drafted because his film is not great at all. However, he did sign for 200,000 guaranteed with the Commanders as an undrafted free agent, like right away. So I felt like that this was like maybe not a guy that they were willing to teams were willing to place draft capital on, but certainly a guy that I think people want to bring in the building just because of the upside with this guy. I mean, Tyler Owens, unreal size, unreal testing numbers, but he's not a great tackler. Kind of biffs in coverage a little bit, but it just like the reason why he is a sleeper is because the potential is there if something clicks, right? You know, but also at worst, you have a possibly a high level physical special teamer. That's what I imagine for Tyler Owens in the future, and like if he's in the league long enough, then you're like, okay, maybe with these tools and the speed that maybe something figured out, where he can be effective in coverage and he can make tackles in open field. But yeah, Tyler Owens was the guy, only guy on this list that did not get drafted, which is not crazy surprising to us because we said it that his film is not very, it's not unbelievable. It's not unbelievable, but certainly a guy that I'll be following just to make sure, just to see where he's at, and yeah, I'll be checking in on how he's doing.
Yeah, I think it's pretty telling that they spent 225K on a guy that had just pretty poor film or production, but I do think that they see the traits, and at worst, I do think he's giving you crazy special teams value. I think he's a guy that can be make some really nice plays for you. Like his size, speed, length, all that stuff, aggressiveness, physicality. Those are things that are going to translate to all four phases of special teams. And also you have um the upside there, right? Like I mean, they had a lot of they had a bad defense last year, a very bad defense last year. But you bring in some guys in the draft, you get some undrafted free agents like Tyler Owens. Who knows there? I mean, there's going to be spots and reps available because it was so poor and safety was a position of need. But yeah, I love this spot for Tyler Owens, and wow, who's their new coach? The Cowboys defense coordinator, right? Dan
Yes,
Owens
Dan
or
Quinn, Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn. Thank you. Dan Owens, Tyler Owens, um, can do for you. I think it's awesome, awesome fit for Tyler Owens. Um, Excited to see what he can do because I think he's going to be the guy that I'm excited to watch in preseason too. Where I mean, in NFL, remember they have preseason where you've got guys that are playing, especially in that second, third, like you're playing a lot of snaps, and you can see what they can really do and see how far he's developed with the whole offseason of NFL coaching.
Absolutely. Let's move on. Let's talk about a guy that I know we both agree is an absolute dog. His name is Cavani Vidal from Troy, running back. He landed at the Chargers in the sixth round, the fifth pick of the sixth round. I know you love this fit. Tell me why.
I mean, just incredible value. I mean, we talked about him being, I mean, we talked about the bowling ball. I mean, like he is awesome. Doug Martin with wheels. Is that his comp? I don't know, but he
Yes,
is going
yes.
to be fantastic for you. And obviously, there was a commitment by the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh and that staff to run the football. You saw that in the draft with Joe Alt. I mean, yes, you get Lad McConkey, which is awesome, but you're going to have to run the football. And there's going to be carries that are available for you. I do not know how healthy J.K. Dobbins will be. Gus Edwards is a guy who's been a nice running back for you in time, but I think Kamani Vidal is going to give you something that's really nice, especially rookie. He's going to be a guy that I'm going to be targeting late in draft classes. If you're in any dynasty leagues, I don't want to, give you special advice or whatnot. But I do think he's a guy that looking at the opportunity, looking at the offense that he's in and the tape and the measurables and how I think he's going to be a really good pro. Yeah, this is awesome. The fit is perfect for Vidal. The Chargers probably could not be more happier that they could get him in the sixth round. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, they will be going by committee there, so he will get his reps. Absolutely will be getting his reps. Yeah, I'm pumped for him, man. I'm pumped for He is Doug Martin with wheels. Greg Roman is going to love using him. He's got a lot of tread on his wheels, but that's why going into running back by committee is kind of extend his career a little bit, you know? Maybe if he was the featured back somewhere, it might end up cutting his career short, shorter than we all hope it will. It would be shorter than we all hope it would be, like
Yeah,
let's hope this guy plays for 10 years. I love that. Alrighty. Let's move on. Let's talk about a guy that I put on this list, Isaac Guerendo. He goes in the fourth round, the highest of any of the sleepers that we put on this list. I picked 29 in the fourth round. So, I mean, relatively close to being a day two guy, but he was the ninth running back taken off the board, but the 49ers traded up to get him. Okay. That tells you something. Okay. He is insanely explosive. And I believe I said when we were in this video, if I didn't say it out loud, then whatever. I was thinking it. The Dolphins I thought would be a really good place for him to land, and I thought the 49ers would be a really good spot for him to land. And he lands right here at the 49ers. He's an insanely explosive runner. Christian McCaffrey, the way he runs, like it feels like he'll just be running forever. Like just playing out there in San Francisco for years. But reality is, maybe he doesn't have all that much time left. Plus, he has had an injury history. Christian McCaffrey has. Like, what are you gonna do when he goes down? You're gonna have this guy, Isaac Guerendo, absolutely explode. This guy is explosive. That is what he is. And that 49ers running game is also explosive. So I just think that this was a fantastic fit for him. Could not have landed at maybe a better spot other than the Dolphins. But also I think the Dolphins, they kind of already like what they have at running back, I think. You know, but the reality is Isaac Guerendo. And obviously the 49ers like what they have at running back there with Christian McCaffrey, but he's a little bit older, And Raheem Mostert's pretty old too for the Dolphins, but they also have Devon Achane. I just thought that this was such a good spot for him to land. And he's gonna be so good.
it absolutely was. I think it's about as good as a spot. Like you said, that them in Miami, the wide zone. Just I mean, look at the Raheem Mostert arc that he had, and Raheem Mostert was way less polished than Grendo was coming out of school. And Grendo also, we talked about it before. Like he does not have a ton of tread on his tires. He sat behind Braylon Allen, who was like I believe also fourth, fifth round pick in this draft, and then Jawar Jordan. They split carries last year at Louisville. Grenda's a guy that's got tread on his tires. He's going to be able to sit behind McCaffrey and maybe learn some things from McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell in that offense there and really take off in a couple years once they do call upon him. I think this is awesome work by the 49ers, recognizing a future need that they're going to have, and also marrying that with a beautiful prospect that has nice upside for them. I mean, you saw 4-3, like just absolute burner. good physicality, produced at Louisville and at Wisconsin. I think this is awesome. This is a great spot for him to go. And they've done this a couple times with these mid to late round running backs. Tyrone Davis Price out of LSU a couple years ago. Trey Sermon out of Ohio State. Elijah Mitchell the year before that, or in that same year as well. And I think Mitchell has done some nice things for him, obviously, but they just obviously the upside's not maybe there, which is why they decided to go trade for a guy like McCaffrey. But I think Garendo's the guy that I feel best about, in the future of these picks that they've had recently.
Yeah, Isaac Grinder also went ahead of Braylon Allen, by the way.
Which is, yeah, I think it's just the upside is there with that 4-3. I think that Allen's a really nice running back, very nice runner of the football. Um,
Also
but
better. He's insane in pass pro too. Like you love Braylon Allen in pass pro. I don't know if you can say the same about Garenda, but
which
you can
he's got
learn.
time to develop that too. But also, you don't
Yeah,
need that on first and second down. You can kind of just run them wide zone, let him turn the corner.
exactly. Let's move on. Let's talk about your last sleeper, Brennan Jackson, edge from Washington State. He slips to the fifth round and he's on the Rams. How do you feel
Yeah,
about that?
you pair him with Jared Verse. I think that I'm not going to say they're too dissimilar. I think 4 rounds will do that for you. But Jared Verse and Brendan Jackson and Braden Fisk, guys, Tyler Davis, like there was an obvious need at defensive line for the Rams, and they attacked that absolutely with their draft picks. It seems like I love Brendan Jackson. I think he can do nice things for you. Um, in defensively in that scheme should be good for the Rams.
Yeah, he's a good football player, man. Dude, high motor. He was so effective in the run game, man. Like, and we'll see, like, if he can slip in there, with Byron Young, like, playing pretty decent for them. But I don't know. It'll be interesting because, like, he, I think him and Jared Verse are different players.
Yeah,
What's your thought on that? Like, you're drafting them for
yeah.
different things.
I think Verse has that upside to be an elite pass rusher, and I think the hope would be that Brendan Jackson can play off of that with his high motor, with his technique, with his high IQ, where he can find sacks in other ways, not just beating the tackle off the ball or just burying him into the quarterback's lap. I think what he can do is early down work. I think especially early in his career to get on the field, but then like with his high motor, with being in the right spots, feeling the pocket, doing other things, he can do some nice things. Opposite verse, who you hope develops in that first round, develops into an elite pass rusher for you. Uh, yeah,
All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about the last sleeper that we had talked about before the draft for day three. His name is Matt Lee. He went to the seventh round to the Cincinnati Bengals. Boy, oh boy. Now, while is he the most physical, biggest anchor that there is at center of all time? No, no. But he's an effective pass blocker and he can move. He can move. Now, I know, like, Cincinnati, I don't know if this is the perfect fit for him. I really don't. I would have thought that Cincinnati would have taken more of a bruiser at center, but look, he's a good football player, man. I think Cincinnati fans, anytime that my team takes a center, I'm okay with it.
yeah. No, I think that's a really nice. Um, seventh round, great value for him. I was waiting for the Bears again, like Central Prime Brown. I was waiting for them to trade up for him. I was seeing him in that seventh round. Like, why not give us 6 next year and go up and get Matt Lee, a guy that I think has real starter upside. I don't know if it leads starter upside with that lack of anchor. I do think, maybe in the NFL weight room, in that scheme there, they can teach him some things, maybe technique wise, that can improve that. Um, his anchor, obviously, with the upside there, but I do think like you have Ted Karras there. I don't know if he's the future, like long term wise. Obviously, he's a very good player right now, long term wise. But also in a pinch, if you need someone to start for you and to try to protect Joe Burrow, yeah, why not? I think that's it's kind of a really nice spot for him to go. and logic and process wise by the Bengals to get in the seventh round. You help your O line in that first round with Marius Mims, a guy that you and I loved. Um, but Matt Lee in the seventh round, why not? That's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome,
I
awesome,
I
awesome.
think I think he was the lightest center to be drafted in the entire NFL draft. However, he's 6'4", 295 pounds. Like, why can't they just fill him out? Like who's to
Well,
say that he won't fill out in the next couple of years in the NFL and just be an absolute monster with that athleticism?
that could be the thinking too, where it's like in different schemes in Miami, especially UCF, he was asked to do different things. And if you're asking him to have an anchor and to have some power gap in their scheme, what they do running wise, and also Joe Burrow, we talked about it before with Maris Mims and why the big tackles, he likes to step up in the pocket. So you can't have your center being bull rushed. So yeah, why not? If you don't need him to move laterally like he did in college, you beef him up there in a couple years and he can play and have a nice anchor for you.
Seriously, seriously. All right, last couple thoughts here before we get out of here. So you wrote down Trey Benson.
Yeah. I mean, that was a tough pick. Obviously, he was a guy that I took him to be the first running back off the board. Tough, tough, tough. He ended up being, I believe, was it
So
second or
second,
you
he
got
was a second.
second because Jonathan Brooks went round two, which was a nice fit for him. Happy for him, even though with the knee injury
We talked about they're
to
two
the
very different
Panthers.
running backs. They're two very different running backs. Need them
It
for
was
different
depending on what kind of
things.
scheme you wanted to run. And I was just betting on, well, maybe that's the GM that decided to pick a running back first was going to be a scheme that liked Trey Benson. But the Cardinals in that third round, awesome, awesome value. James Conner has struggled to stay healthy for you. You saw that last year as well. Behind him, there's not much else. And Trey Benson can do some really nice things for you with Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison coming in. Yeah. Christian Jones, Isaiah Adams as well. Tip Raymond even on that and that draft class is pretty darn good for the Cardinals. And Trey Benson in the third round is awesome value.
All right, then Cooper Beebe to the
Oh yeah.
Cowboys, a
I
team
think
that
that's nice because
focus pretty heavily. My thought on the Cowboys draft, no running backs. I thought they were going to take multiple. So you're going into the season with Rico Dowdle, Royce Freeman, and Deuce Vaughn.
and Zeke. They just re-signed Zeke as this morning,
And
I believe, which is hilarious. But anyways, yeah, I think it's a nice insurance for Tyler Guyton. He's a guy that I don't know if I was as high on everyone else as he was, but he's also a guy where Tyler Guyton, I think, needs a little bit of time to develop and learn left tackle. Remember, he's switching over from right tackle to left tackle in the NFL. It's not an easy transition. It's not like Madden where you can just plug him in and expect it to be fine. And Tyler Smith's a guy you drafted a couple of years ago that can play left tackle. The hope was to let him in the guard and be an all-pro guard. But I do think this is insurance if Guyton's not ready. If you're at camp and he is getting bullied and he is not working out for you there, Coop Beebe can play guard for you, and you can slide out Tyler Smith to tackle and let Tyler Guyton really develop and turn into a guy that you love and have an elite tackle. And then you can move over Beebe to the other side, whatever you want there. I think he's a really solid player.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Like, there's a really good chance that BB starts and Tyler Guyton doesn't this year, which is kind of crazy.
And
Uh,
if you're a Cowboys fan, don't freak out about that. That's the reality of it. It's not Tyler Guyton is a project as much as the first round can be. I know you want him to play right away, but Cooper Beebe, if I had to bet, plays more snaps than Tyler Guyton does, which
yeah.
is interesting.
Cowboys also drafted Nathan Thomas, who is absolute monster from Louisiana. Um, 6'5", 334 pounds. Talk about anchoring. I mean, that guy's gigantic. So two very different players, if you ask me. Uh, they're drafting, Tyler Guyton versus these interior guys, but you know, the interior guys that they drafted are very similar in size. I mean, we'll see. I haven't watched a ton of Nathan Thomas, but we'll see if one of those guys rises to the top and ends up starting and kind of booting Tyler Guyton to the bench, But we'll see. We'll see. They're getting competition in there, but it'll be interesting to see that running back room in there. Any other thoughts on the draft that you want to bring up?
Yeah, I like to go just a couple round, like that day three. a couple rounds here. Jatavion Sanders to Carolina, awesome kind of fit there with Bryce Young. You saw what he did with Cameron Latu and some other tight ends at Alabama, which is exciting. We talked about Javon Baker to the Pats and Torrey Taylor, but Bucky Irving, love Bucky Irving on this channel. Too bad he did go to the Tampa Bay because I do think him and Rashad White, there's a little bit of redundancy there. So I don't know if the playing time early on is going to be there for him, but I wonder long term, you don't want to pay Rashad White. Maybe you draft Bucky Irving, you have him put on a little bit more weight, and then he can really take off for you in year 2 and 3. And then Sione Vaki as a running back. As a running back, he's got to play at everything for Utah. We talked about him a lot this year on the channel. Played running back and safety. I think he wants to play safety, what it sounds like, but Detroit announced him as a running back. And I don't know if he has too much of a say in it, but I do think he's just going to love Detroit's culture and Detroit's going to love him. He kind of does whatever you need him to do, which is pretty telling of a player going into a draft season, right? He's like, I'm playing safety, but I can also play running back for us because we had all these injuries. Love that for the Lions there.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of crazy that he can play whatever. It
Yeah,
is kind of
awesome. And
nuts.
yeah, and I think that they, I think they're, and obviously they don't need him at running back right away. You've got two guys you really, really like. You can just sit and develop him wherever you need him to play. Maybe once Montgomery's done with his contract or he move him back to safety, whatever it may be. Fifth round here, want to throw some names out. Xavier Thomas, former 5-star guy out of Clemson, went to Arizona. The Cardinals, the guy with high upside, finally put it together, stayed on the field healthy for Clemson this year. Fifth round, I think, is a little bit too late for him. It would pretty good value for the Cardinals. Excited to see what he can do in the NFL, as well as Spencer Rattler. Have to talk about him in that fifth round of the Saints. I think that's a beautiful fit. Um, he can sit behind Derek Carr for a little bit, and then I mean, it's a low risk, high upside reward. I mean, he could be a starter for you. It can turn into a starter for the Saints once you get tired of the Derek Carr contract, or not. He can just be a quality backup for you. It seems like the maturity issues has kind of gotten fixed at South Carolina, and then I don't know why exactly he fell in the draft. I heard some things. I don't really believe them, to be honest, so I won't even mention them. But Jabari Thrash as well with the Browns. Boom. Why not? I mean, they added Jared Judy this year. They've got Coop. Obviously, I mean, Jamar is like you've been high on for a while now. Want to hear your thoughts on that? The Browns in the fifth round.
Yeah, it's a good spot. I mean, I don't know that he's actually going to see a ton of playing time. I mean, he's not like a small guy, but he's kind of a thin guy. Like, we'll see. I mean, they have a pretty decent room over there in Cleveland, but the reality is I think he's just a good football player, and sometimes you just take good football players and try to find a way to fit them in there. We'll see. We'll see. That's a big we'll see for me. If I had to go on something, I mean, because I mean you did get uh Jared Judy in this offseason. You drafted Cedric Tillman last year, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore. So it is kind of like a quote unquote crowded receiver room, but there is room there to, find playing time, if that makes sense. David Bell's another one that's in there as well. So that's a definite we'll see for me.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. In the sixth round here, just got a couple names. Johnny Wilson to the Eagles, pretty interesting as well. You talked about him or a little bit earlier. I don't know if he's gonna make transition to tight end or receiver, but regardless, I think it gives Hurts maybe a big bodied receiver they can use. And then sixth round, why not throw a dart like that? I don't know how we talked about it every year with Howie Roseman, just letting people fall to him. And Jordan Mailata, I got a couple years ago. And I don't know if Jordan fell because not really many people knew about him. But just taking these dart throws, I guess, all over the draft, and then they all seem to hit for him with the Eagles, except Jalen Rieger. But Wilson's a nice piece for them. Even though you signed AJ Brown, Dante Smith, the long-term deals this offseason, you can always add more pass catchers to your team, and Wilson just gives you a unique skill set that nobody else has.
100%. I wrote down Jordan Whittingham here to the Rams.
Yeah, I just think he's a guy that had nice production for a couple years in college, and the Rams are a team that just seem to be really good at finding receivers. in the draft. And I don't know. I think there's going to be some opportunities there. I don't know if Tutu Atwell is the future there. Demarcus Robinson comes over from Baltimore a couple years ago. Um, yeah, I mean, behind Puka and Cooper Cup, there's a lot of catches, opportunities there. You've got Whittingham there. I still like Tyler Johnson as a Minnesota fan. I still think he can do things for you. But Whittingham gives you a nice receiver. He's almost a big bodied slot guy, um, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, he's a good player. I mean, unlike you said, I mean they just seemingly draft receivers that you just are like, oh, okay, they threw a dart, whatever, in this round, bang, just absolute snipes. Puka
Yeah,
Nakua, Cooper Cup. I mean, Robert Woods was a high draft pick, but still, he ended up working out pretty well for them. I know he didn't work out for the Titans, but he was good for them. And Van Jefferson got a contract somewhere else. I mean, they just seem to hit on guys at this receiver position. So that is definitely certainly a name to look out for.
yeah. And then in the seventh round, I got two names here. James Williams, former five-star guy, safety, big safety, might be moving to linebacker. We'll see what he does at the second level or in the NFL. But I just think that's a beautiful dart throw. Again, the process here is sound. You can play him at strong safety and box safety. Now, is he going to be Kyle Hamilton? No. Kyle Hamilton went in the first round. James Williams went in the seventh round, obviously. But I think even at linebacker, I mean, you took a pretty safe, sound guy like Cedric Gray in that fourth round there. And why not throw a dart? Throw a high upside guy, former five-star pedigree, James Williams out of Miami, safety lineman, whatever you want to call him. And just with the seventh round, you don't have to play him right away. Like there's no expectations from the fans at all. But you can fit and develop, play special teams, do things for you, and then eventually find a role, a niche role for him that can be really productive for you in a very good AFC South division.
Absolutely. I saw you wrote down Kalen King to the Packers that you thought had interesting potential. So do you think it was like he was mocked pretty high like before this season, right? Like was it is it because of the size you think, or you think it's because of size and production, or are there other factors you think that kind of forced him to slip to the seventh round for the Packers to take him?
I think the size and production, I think what he did in 2022 was beautiful. A lot of people found him watching Joey Porter, and Kalen King was the guy that popped last year. Now he was playing opposite, not opposite Joey Porter this year. So maybe that hurt him and whatnot, but he didn't have a good draft process, whether it was at the combine testing and all that other stuff. So he did fall to the seventh round, but again, similar to Williams, why not take a dart throw? In the seventh round, to me, you have a couple options where you can take a safe special teams guy, a nice backup role for you, or a guy that can develop into starter with the traits to develop into a starter. And I think you saw it in 2022. You saw that there, and you've got corners that you like. Valentine, Stokes, obviously Jair Alexander, um, that can do things for you. Uh, why not let Kalen King take a shot at him, see what he can do? If you can unlock that 2022 potential out of him, then this is a beautiful pick. And if it doesn't, who cares? It's a seventh round pick. You had a ton of draft picks in this process. Why not? Now, the last guy with that said, now it's not going to be Kevin King. Okay. Kevin King, a little different player than Kalen King. Obviously, Packers fans know that name and infamousy there. But Kalen King, I think, is a nice bar throw. Like I said, why not? Why not?
All right. Do you have any other thoughts on this year's NFL draft before we never talk about it again for the next year?
No, I mean, whew, it was pretty awesome covering it. I hope you guys enjoyed our stuff. But I love the draft. I know you love the draft. I was at B Dubs for maybe 7 hours, um, maybe 6, 7 hours on Thursday night, and obviously parked in front of a TV on Friday and Saturday as well, watching all the picks. So yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Well, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure if you like the content, like the video. It's a real simple rule we have here. Let us know if you like our NFL draft content. Fortunately, we're not going to be having that for a while. All right. So, but make sure if you come for the NFL draft, stay for the college football because, gosh, the spring portal closes tomorrow, right? So maybe we start seeing some last jumps in there, and then we start to get see a better picture of what these teams are going to look like at a roster standpoint, and then we can start to put together some previews. We can start to get together what we think these teams are going to be. It's going to be awesome. This summer is going to be awesome. We're going to have a bunch of stuff for you guys. Be sure to stick around, like, subscribe, and let us know what else you like. And if you're listening on Spotify, we love you too. Just give us a 5-star rating and maybe a follow. All right. Thank you so much. See you anything on the way out?
I know, like Bethy said, do all those things. Happy you guys watching our videos. Hope you enjoyed them. Let us know in the comments. Yeah.
All righty. And we'll see y'all in the next one.